Because if we're not the first, it's like the Ricky Bobby. If you're not first, you're last. If we're not the first that sets that watermark and we're the last, then we're going to get the worst price. Because here's what's going to happen. We move first, we sell, we set the benchmark. Welcome to the Listing Blueprint Podcast, the show for real estate agents who want to become top-tier listing agents and build a business driven by systems and not stress. I'm your host, Jeremy Reid, managing broker, 16-year realtor, and creator of the Listing Blueprint Fastest Path to Sold. Every episode, I break down one practical strategy or framework you can use to win more listing appointments, price with confidence, market with intention, and sell homes faster in any market. If you're ready to elevate your listing game and run your business like a pro, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hey guys, welcome back. I have a good one this week. I want to talk about price discovery because this has probably been the main conversation that I've been having on a daily and weekly basis with a lot of my clients. So let's talk about price discovery first, what it is. Over the last 18 to 24 months in my market and a lot of markets around Canada, prices have been settling. And the thing was, when we think about price settling, we tend to think about, oh, they're just going down. What we need to understand, and what I've been really trying to talk to my clients about, is that every sub-market acts a little bit differently. So an apartment complex in one area is going to settle differently than a single-family home in a premium neighborhood. It's going to settle differently than a first-time homebuyer home in a mid-tier neighborhood. These all settle different. They're all different markets. Price discovery is when the market's on the move. It's going down or it's going up. If you guys remember in 2020 and 2021 and 2022, the market was going up. So price discovery was finding, well, where's the tip? And that's why every sale outperformed the next sale a little bit. So you'd get a sale in a neighborhood for 800,000. The next sale was going to be 810. Then the next sale was going to be 815. So it was price discovery on the way up. Now, when we talk about price discovery, we need to talk about market value. And remember that there's the only definition we have for market value is what a seller is willing to sell for and a buyer is willing to buy for. And when those 2 points interconnect, this is where market value sits. That's why you can't just go get an appraisal and say it's worth this, because that's not a ready and willing buyer that's willing to buy that property for that price. And that's also why we always talk about ranges. You have to list within a range because there is no set price. So price discovery on the way up looks like that. Each sale outperforms the next. Price discovery on the way down can look like each sale does a little bit less than the other, but it doesn't always look like that. What it really can look like sometimes is no sales in a certain area. And you see these, Whistler was a great example. I talked to a realtor that was up in Whistler back in 2009, and he was telling me that the market never actually came back until 2012. Which is a lot longer than a lot of other areas. But the reason it didn't is it was a small market and the people were still doing price discovery, but everyone was holding out for their price. No one wanted to accept where this new market may be. And when sellers all hold out at a certain price point and buyers aren't willing to buy that price point, there's no sales. So then it looks like there's no liquidity. And the mistake a lot of people make is they think, oh, there's just no buyers out there right now. Let me tell you something from personal experience that's been happening over the last little bit. I had a property that we were listed, and we were listed the best in show. So there were 7 properties in this apartment building. We priced ourselves the best out of the 7. And my thought process was, okay, on average, 1 unit sells in here every 30 days. So if we're the best option for a buyer, then they should come through and they should buy it within 30 days because that was what we were usually do. Well, we went 90 days. Very few showings. And we kept looking at the data going into March and April and May. Spring market's going to come in, and we weren't getting offers, but nobody was getting offers. The buyers didn't care that 6 months ago everything was selling in that range. They were not willing to buy in that price band anymore, which was in this case, it was the $400 to $450 price band. There just wasn't anything out there. So I talked to the seller and I said, listen, this is happening with you. It's happening with a few other people. I refuse to believe that there's just no buyers out there. And the reason I refuse to believe that is that there's markets in our area, in Kamloops, that's selling very quickly, multiple offers after 2-3 days. But we're not getting any action. We're not getting any offers. Now, all these buyers for apartments didn't just go away. but we're all just sitting within this 4 to 450 range because that's what we typically traded at. What I think we need to look at is what is the sub 400 market looking like? Now, there was some other sales that was in there. There was a few other data points, but the conversation was, I think we need to be the explorers on this because we're not selling. No one's selling. No one wants to move. Let's be the first ones to go under that 400 range and get the sale because nothing's happening right now. We wanted to sell by summer. So we made that move and we got an offer in 3 days. Now, the reason we got the offer in 3 days was because price discovery hadn't happened in that complex, and we dropped down to where the buyer's expectations were. Sorry, I got cut off. Anyway, where were we at? Price discovery. So price discovery hadn't happened in that market yet. The buyers, their expectation was they wanted to buy that property for under $400,000. The minute we went there, all of a sudden there was all this activity, and it sold almost immediately. So then I went to a couple other sellers and I had the conversation that said, hey, this is what I'm seeing. Maybe we should do the same. Because if we're not the first, it's like the Ricky Bobby. If you're not first, you're last. If we're not the first that sets that watermark and we're the last, then we're going to get the worst price. Because here's what's going to happen. We move first. We sell. We set the benchmark. We tested long enough to know it wasn't at the above 400. Now we set the new benchmark. Once we sell, we got our money. We're out. But everybody else of those other 7 listings that are on the market are going to have to either hold out for longer or they're going to have to drop. And with the current market, I don't see any indicators that say we should be going up. So if we let someone else make that move first, now we chase them down. Now someone else chases them down, and we go from having no competition under 400 to potentially 6 or 7 if everyone jumps on the bandwagon at the same time. We need to be the miners. We need to be the explorers. We need to get ahead of it. So I'm running that now with a few other buyers because now that we're in June, we're ending the selling season. The goal for everybody should be get an offer in June. Don't leave it up to the summer if you have to. And if there's room to move, we should move because everything's settling. The market is what the market is. Once you have your cash, you can go shop. The other thing that I'm really looking at with price discovery is that you've got certain sub areas like Aberdeen in my market, for instance. I put a property on the market last week. We had 16 showings and 4 offers in 3 days and sold for $15,000 over asking price. So theoretically, someone, let's just say in that market, could make a really good move by selling their home in Aberdeen and downsizing to an apartment building like the one that my seller just went, because the Aberdeen market is now trending pretty close to where it was 12 months ago. But this other market is now selling for $40,000 or $50,000 less than things were trading there. And this gap is where I think a lot of these lateral moves can happen. It can happen from someone going from a house to a single family home. Like I said, that's more for first-time home buyers. First-time home buyers going to premium areas that maybe don't have school catchments that would bring in families. So you got elderly people that are selling. These are the conversations that I think need to be happening right now because unless you're in a really rural market, there's not buyers. Does that make sense? There's buyers. The best test for this is that you could take any property. Yeah, any property, freehold property. You could put any property anywhere within this country and put it on the market for $1 and you would get offers. Now you stretch that out and you go, well, what about $1,000? Of course. $10,000, $50,000. Now, depending on how rural you are, maybe that's where the tipping point starts. But if you run this exercise out, say that you've got a property worth $850,000 and everything has been selling for $800 to $850. Well, if you take that property and you list it for $699, you're going to get offers, probably multiple offers. But then that would happen at probably 6 or 749. Really, it would start to tip 769. You're trying to get a little closer, 789, 799, 819. So as you go up the scale, there's a tipping point, and the tipping point is where you lose your buyers and you lose that leverage. Now, I like to look at it by price bands. If I'm above 800 and everything was selling at 800, well, you can run most markets. Our data system allows us to do this. I can see how many new buyers we're going to match with if I go under 800,000. Well, that's an important conversation because if we are the best in show between 8 and 850, but the absorption on average, we get buyers every 30 days. Now we're 60 days in and not a single buyer has bought any of the properties between 8 and 850. You were trading. The buyers coming into this market were trading at least once every 30 days. In that example, it'd probably be closer to 6 or 7 a month. I'm just using it for simple. So 2 buyers should have came in. No buyers came in. So those buyers didn't disappear. Their expectation changed. So now you go, okay, well, is a move to 819 going to make a difference? Well, most big price bands happen at those big numbers. So 799.9 is usually going to match you with a high percentage of extra buyers, even if you're only at 824.9, because it's a different price band. And that 799, anybody that matches with that is not considering anything over 800. So you're completely controlling your competition because they're not looking above 800. So now I get to look down and say, is there anything between 750 or 800 that we're not better than? No. Well, this is a pretty open lane. It's an aggressive move. It's an uncomfortable move. This is the same conversation. I'm not saying you have to do it that I'm having with my sellers, but I'm saying as your advisor, we're having opportunity loss right now. And I have to foresee potential downsides because at the end of the day, I just want to give you the options. If I don't give you this option now, even if you're like, you're crazy, I'm not going to 799. Well, no, that's totally fine. But if I don't have the conversation with you now and someone else has that conversation and they do it first, and then we decide after the third or fourth sale we want to do it, we're going to end up worse. And I've seen it time and time again. I've been in this market for 17 years. So I'm telling you, if you're listening to this and you're a realtor or you're a seller that's working with another realtor, I'm telling you this. Price is king. Marketing, storytelling, positioning matters. It makes a change, but your biggest lever is always going to be your price. So if we're not getting those offers in an active market going through a spring, it's going to come down to price and aggression. Being the first, the bold one, not typically, in my entire experience, has always fared out better because I track things. I've done this numerous times. I'll do this with the unit I sold, the apartment, other ones. I look back, I watch the hot sheets, and I want to see. I've not yet seen where we made an aggressive move like that and we didn't end up on a better per square foot and better in the long term than everyone else that ended up selling within that 6-month window. Because we set the watermark and now the new buyers that come in, typically it trades right around that, but you're not usually, it's not this big drop where you get really motivated and a bunch of stuff sells a bunch higher. It's not been my experience yet, but the reason it hasn't been my experience is I'm very methodical about it. You don't need to typically start there unless that's your move. It might be a good move, but you want to get the data. Start with the pricing strategy that you think is going to work, but don't ignore the market because if you're not getting the action and you're not adapting to that feedback, then what are you doing? It's you're just hoping. And that hoping is what frustrates a lot of people. It's what causes them to miss windows. It's what causes them to look. My first house that I ever sold by myself, I ended up hiring a realtor after 2 years. I've sold it my second year in the business. And I called a realtor and I was like, I need you to just sell this for me because I clearly am too emotionally connected to this. I think it's worth more than it actually is, obviously. Tell me what I need to list it at. And when he told me what I needed to list it at, I thought he was crazy. But I did it and it sold. And I paid him a full commission to actually advise me because clearly what I was doing wasn't working because after 2 years, my steep walkway of stairs just wasn't screaming to people, pay a premium because I updated some flooring. So I went through it. I get it. I'm having these conversations all the time. I don't blame anybody when they say, no, I'm not going to do it. But I can tell you that the ones that are doing it, they're selling right now. And certain classes you can't compare yourself to because, anyone that's looking, that's got a single family home and they see my Bramble lane listing that just sold in 3 days for 15 grand over, the instinct is, well, what are they doing right that I'm doing wrong? He just hit a market. You drive through that neighborhood, it's all sold signs. It's a great catchment. It's a great school catchment. There's a new high school coming in. There's 200 new jobs that are coming to Kamloops that want single family homes in a pristine area. That one, it sells. We put a good pricing strategy on it, took some good photos and hosted offers and it sold. But I didn't have like some magic bullet. If we had priced that $100,000 higher, it wouldn't have sold. $50,000 higher, I wouldn't have sold. We got the right pricing strategy. So, yeah, that's the formula. Hopefully that helps. If you're a seller, just getting yourself able, because the nice thing, a lot of people don't realize this, the sellers actually drive the market. Buyers are the ones that are buying, but the sellers are the ones that get to make the first offer with the price they put forward. So you are a decision away from being able to have your house sold. That's a pretty empowering feeling. Doesn't mean you had to do it, but it doesn't mean you have to sit there and be frustrated either. So hopefully you got some value out of that, and I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.